Episode 263.
Tuwang Lan Valley, we go.
Ye Xiu called out to the original 5-man team and continued on toward One Line Valley. For the vast majority of players at this stage, One Line Gorge wasn't a mainstream leveling zone. It wasn't bustling like Glazed Lands. Especially at this hour, most online players would be running dungeons. Those wandering the leveling areas, grinding on regular mobs, were practically non-existent. There were some, but they were solo players who couldn't find a team, clearly not from the major guilds. Ye Xiu had anticipated this. Moreover, he was leading a party of 4 and was being extra careful, sticking to the deserted paths. The dungeon entrance was the only lively spot, filled with text bubbles as players called out for random groups. But that made it even easier to blend in. In the thick of the crowd, with Glory's first-person perspective, it was incredibly difficult to make out the ID floating above a character's head, especially in a place where text bubbles were flying everywhere. The 5 of them entered the dungeon. Meanwhile, the guild's pursuit squads were charging towards Sky Forest from all directions. Some had been shaken off by Su Mucheng and Qiao Yifan in the Glazed Lands. There were also those from Hard Village who had been shaken off by Steamed Bun Invasion and Concealed Light. After failing to intercept Tang Ru at Sky Strike City, they were so ashamed that they split off part of their force. And then there was the Revenge Squad of 32, fresh from their earlier defeat. On top of that, there were numerous scattered groups from various locations. The elite players from all the guilds had now gathered here, practically surrounding this small patch of woods. 32 players wiped out. The news had reached all the major guilds. At first hearing, it was truly staggering. These 32 players had set out with the goal of hunting down Lord Grimm. Yet in the end, they were all wiped out by a single person. But even after hearing the detailed reports and learning about the various mitigating factors, the high-level guild leaders' moods didn't improve much. The sheer strength of Lord Grimm's team had clearly exceeded their expectations. The Blade Master Lu Mu and the Battle Mage Soft Mist were the 2 names now being singled out. Lu Mu, a level 27 Blade Master, was holding his own against level 33 players without any disadvantage. He could even take on 2, 3, or 4 opponents at once. In the final clash, he single-handedly blasted 5 players into the encirclement with a knockback attack, including the strongest among them, the guild leader level player, Gu Yin, and Soft Mist. She fought her way out single-handedly from the players Kongji City had reserved to deal with Lord Grimm's entire team. Even without killing a single opponent, the combat prowess she displayed was more than enough to prove this team's strength. The major guilds, a rift even formed. The 32-man legion described how powerful, how terrifying Lu Mu was. Meanwhile, the players guarding the city walls kept emphasizing how terrifying Soft Mist was. Before they knew it, the 2 sides had become fans of Lu Mu and Soft Mist, arguing over who was stronger.
Liu Mu was only level 27.
Level 27.
Do you know how many people were outside Sky Strike City back then?
Even if I gave you a level 40 character, you still couldn't get out.
As it happened, both groups had set out from Sky Strike City together, and they'd been bickering the whole way. Brothers from the same guild were nearly at each other's throats over the issue. Outside the Sky Forest, the elite players from the 7 guilds assembled, but only 3 guild leaders were present: Yedu Han Tan, Gu Yin, and Chen Yihui. The leaders of the other 4 guilds were currently leading their teams in a fierce battle within the dungeon. Ye Xiu's guess was spot on. The major guilds would all keep their elite players on the job, continuing the assault. And most guild leaders were more than happy to play the part of that elite. As for these 3, Knight Crossing Coldpool is a knight. In a 5-man dungeon team, his role as the main tank has never been part of an elite record-breaking squad, so he wasn't in a rush to level up. Lun Shadow had joined this operation with a bit of a personal grudge. only to end up as one of the most humiliating members of the 30. 2. Man Team wipe, and being corpse, camped by steamed bun invasion only deepened his resentment. Naturally, he threw himself into the operation without a moment's delay. As for Chen Yihui, the mastermind behind this operation, his goals were far more complex than the simple story he'd spun for the guilds. He aimed to pin down Lord Grimm's team, halt their leveling, reclaim the level advantage, and seize control of the dungeon records. This was the pitch he gave to each guild, the very reason they had all come together. But Chen Yihui harbored another, unspoken intention. He couldn't possibly voice it. While the various guilds dispatched members to hinder Lord Grimm's team from leveling up, weren't they also slowing down their own progress in the process? His Jia Dynasty guild had already invested more in the 10th server than any other guild, so he could afford to stall. His losses were easily offset by his massive initial investment. Chen Yihui certainly held a personal grudge against Ye Xiu, one that was 100 times stronger than Gu Yin's. For Gu Yin, it was merely a feeling of being toyed with and humiliated. But Chen Yihui had always believed Ye Xiu had altered the course of his life. Yet now, facing Ye Xiu, he was acting with chilling rationality. It was Liu Hao who made him realize this. He had used Liu Hao, treating him as a pawn, wanting to jointly accept the main quest of toppling Ye Xiu. In the end, they completed that quest, and they pulled it off flawlessly. Chen Yihui was naturally thrilled. Thanks to the connection forged with Liu Hao during this main quest, he even got a pro player to pilot his account in the new server's pioneering phase. It seemed Liu Hao could continue to serve as his pawn, and a rather useful one at that. That is, until they ran into Ye Xiu again. Suppressing Ye Xiu was just a side quest at this point, but both of them found it far more enticing than their main mission. Without a moment's hesitation, they accepted it. The pawn eagerly stepped up to the challenge. Chen Yihui watched the show with equal excitement, only for the pawn to lose. The defeat was pretty brutal, but Chen Yihui didn't make a big deal of it. It was just a chess piece, after all, so he went and tried stepping on it himself, but his attempt went just as poorly. But he discovered a new direction, a fresh line of thought. He hurried to find his pawn, only to see it had already made a brilliant turn. A maneuver he himself had no space to execute. Only then did Chen Yihui realize that in the main quest of toppling Ye Xiu, the pawn he held had gained far greater benefits than he himself. The true pawn, it seemed, was none other than Chen Yihui. Liu Hao turned to pursue his main quest, leaving the side mission for Chen Yihui. This side quest was one Chen Yihui couldn't shake off, as it was now inextricably linked to his main objective. His primary mission was to pioneer the new server, and Ye Xiu had already become a veritable mountain blocking his path to that frontier. Liu Hao didn't need to complete this task, but if Chen Yihui succeeded, he'd still get to enjoy the benefits. He turned away with such effortless grace. Could that be the reason? Even if Chen Yihui was fully aware of this point, there was nothing he could do about it. The only consolation he had now was that he had finally come to his senses and would no longer confuse priorities. Since Ye Xiu was now entangled in the main quest line, he might as well be put to good use. And the top-tier god of glory truly didn't disappoint, wiping out a 32-player team while fighting at a numerical disadvantage. That lone hermit was practically spitting his words through gritted teeth. Because of this, the major guilds are sure to mobilize even more of their forces, and they'll be even more displeased with those big guilds who just stand by and do nothing. Because of Ye Xiu's presence, the situation in the 10th server was growing more complex. Chen Yihui thought he had to see it clearly.